Hi, good morning and welcome. Today I want to talk about the shift from the current paradigm towards a new paradigm and the shift from our current evolution state of mankind towards, I believe, a new phase in our evolution, which is really like, that's why I use the word new paradigm, because it really feels that there is a big shift happening right now and will happen in the next years. And I have no idea how it will end or how it will evolve. And that's why I feel myself in this role of giving clarity on the bridge we actually find ourselves in between the old and new paradigm. And I've always wondered about a few questions in my life, never really dived deep into it, but I could never understand why we humans still are fighting each other, why we still allow war to happen. Why is that still necessary to conquer and to gain more power and more land or more control over others? And why there's so much inequality in the sense of poverty. In many areas are very luxurious and still a lot of areas are extremely poor. And why there's such a disbalance in our own environment, and why we cannot solve our big questions around pollution. And well, there are many questions, and I think we are at the end of a phase of the industrial evolution, which has brought us many good things. A huge growth in science, a huge growth in wealth and comfort for some, not for everyone, but for most of us. And there's also a huge growth in independency. I mean, the whole dynamic between men and women has changed. So there are many things that has shifted and has gained and has given us a lot. But we also notice that we're not all happy. And so some of the current paradigm elements or dynamics are just not fulfilling us anymore. So this loss and this need for fulfillment, or this inner drive for fulfillment, it's not a need, it's more like a natural drive for fulfillment or happiness, whatever you call it, is something that humans seem to be ready now. And now more than ever in these current times, around this pandemic, you can really feel how people are reacting differently to what is happening. And so I think always has been in history, when there is a shift in paradigm, like really going into a next phase, there is a lot of chaos. And we're right in the midst of the chaos. And that's often very painful, and has to be, because the old system has to break down and has to be deconstructed and has to be left behind, and the new system is not there yet. And when I talk about systems, I talk about any system on this planet, whether it's political, economical, education, health, even our cultural systems. Everything will be shifting, because the world is shifting. We no longer have countries with only the people who were born there living there. I mean, we're mixing cultures now more than ever. So that does something with our social systems. We have a political system which is very out of balance and very power-based, and that's why we still fight each other and still try to gain more power, or at least defend our power and defend our safety. And for what actually? What are we afraid of? And in our health system we have, at least in our Western societies, we have become very disempowered in knowing how to learn how our body reacts to disease or disease. We simply have been taught that medication is the solution, and we can question that nowadays. At least I question it a lot, and already for many years. Why we use so many chemical products, why there's so much wisdom even from ancient times and still alive. But more than that, why aren't we more able to sense in what our body needs and when it's out of balance? out of emotional balance. And that creates then a ground for disease to develop. So the current systems and also the business systems today are showing a lot of disempowerment to the people. And it shows a lot of distrust. We are running companies, for instance, in its background actually based on distrust. We're not transparent to each other. We find it hard to bring emotions into companies. We find it hard to bring the heart into companies because we're so focused on the numbers and on the results and on our survival, for that matter, or creating more wealth, and like it's never enough. So this balance in our current system and our developed addiction to our outer confirmation. We try to find constantly confirmation from the outside world to falsely empower ourselves. So we keep comparing ourselves, like I said in the other video, to feel better and to stay in competition with each other. So you could say at its core it's this win-lose dynamic, and it's this fear versus love dynamic, which is out of balance simply. So the new paradigm is not there yet, and how will it look like and what is needed for that? And any system on this planet, any man-made system is, like it says, man-made. So it's up to the humans in the system itself, in the current system, and moving towards the next. It's up to the consciousness and the curiosity and the desire within the humans what the new system will look like. And I feel and sense, and many others with me, that the new system will have new dynamics and new values, and values where we can, where we feel empowered, where we learn self-honesty, where we learn how to unlock the gifts that we all have, our uniqueness, and respect each other for each other, uniqueness and gifts, instead of labeling each other with educational levels or experience levels that are mostly only confirmed by our cognitive intelligence and our experience throughout the year. But we have lost the ability to approach each other and trust that the uniqueness and the gifts that are in us naturally can only develop if we open up to ourselves firstly, and secondly to each other. So as long as we don't know the self, the new system will be a copy of the old one with little improvements. And I don't believe that will last for very long. I really believe right now that we are shifting to systems that are based on knowing the self, so mastery of the self, and knowing what we need, what we desire, getting to know yourself on its deepest level, and that will create new systems, and that will create systems that will create abundance at the first place, because we are so creative as human beings, so there will always be abundance, but then it will be equally distributed. We no longer gain only for the few, but we will gain for the masses. And I'm not trying to say here that there will be a different, or that we will lose our current model of leadership completely. I mean, it will take probably decades before new systems are fully in place, and we can only look back into history to say when the shift has really happened, because it never is from one day to the other. It happens gradually. But opening up to the new dynamics as a first step is already extremely empowering for yourself, firstly, and creates a sense of aliveness in yourself, and a sense that you can take power over your own life. That's what I call empowerment, that you learn what is good for you and what's in alignment with you, and that you come in touch with your own power and your own uniqueness and your own gifts, and And then we will create systems that are, as I call it, to just give it a name, that are human and heart-based, and that are more in balance and not at the cost of others any longer. And once again, in the phase in between, in the bridging time, going from one to the other paradigm, we will have to try and experiment, and we have to learn, and we have to embrace new ways of working, which are very, very discomfortable at the beginning, because we don't know how it works. And we're so driven by control and expectation. So it's going to be challenging, and at the same time, if we can approach it with a lot of lightness and curiosity, it's also going to be a lot of fun to do it. But right now it's challenging because we're literally in a crisis and in a very chaotic time. And that's why I invite you actually to just use this time to open up to yourself, to open up different practices, to change patterns, to look at how you're programmed, and I will share more about that, and about how we are patterned and how we use that so unconsciously while it's not serving us anymore, or while we're not aware whether it's serving us. But it really is a time to get closer to yourself and to who you are, and find out who you are. And it's a beautiful time to shift yourself in these paradigms into higher frequencies. As the new paradigm, when we move from fear to love, current paradigm is very much based on fear in all its shapes and forms. And we will move to a paradigm of love, and not the romantic love. It really is a compassionate love, that we approach each other so differently and can see and value each other, as well as value the self. So the self-love becomes important. So being in this phase, it requires guidance for everyone. I mean, I've been in this shift for a longer period, and I definitely I still need my guidance, and so I invite you to find your guidance, and whether it's through my videos or any other channel, or more than one channel, or more than one source, that's all great. That's all perfect. And so for me, the message is really for today is that we are moving, if I would call the new system with only one word, it's really become going back to sovereignty, which I think we had in the past, a long time ago, when life was simple and less complicated. But now we will discover a new phase of sovereignty. And sovereignty means, in my words, really taking ownership over your whole life, really feeling in alignment and knowing and taking your own responsibility for the actions you do, and for how you move through life with others, as we are always living together as we are naturally beings. It's natural for us as beings to live together. So sovereignty and ownership is not a selfish thing. On the contrary, it's really being compassionate with each and every one of us. And that does not happen full time. That's again a learning process. But it really would help a lot if we stop controlling each other and think for each other, and start to think for ourselves and activate a critical mind, and become more open to more perspectives. And for that, to be open to more perspectives and more solutions and more ways of looking to life, at life, we need a higher frequency. Because when you're in a low, fearful frequency, you are not able to open up to perspective. So raising our vibration, which is a different way of saying that how we vibrate at a certain frequency, is the first step, the first big step. And it's going to be a great journey, a challenging one, and it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be frightening sometimes, but I don't think we're going back to any old current paradigm anymore. It will shift somehow, and And so I'm curious how you think it will shift. Love to hear your reaction. Okay, bye for now.